This is from the World Sensorium. I've been tweeting a lot about this book, and thanks to Steffers for the copy. I think that it will speak a little bit to the electrical engineering elements that I was talking about. And I was just reading this on the bus the other night, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is physics. Now, the book isn't a physics book. It's a book that's laying out the plan to create a one world global brain and a unified, harmonized society that then sort of uplifts us into this next stage of evolution. But the choice of language, I think, is very intentional. Again, Oliver Reiser, the World Sensorium. The lead into this, at just the end of the previous paragraph, says that a program based on health is so quote unquote practical that any special interest group would attack it at their peril. So that's just the lead in, right? So the idea that we have a global system of perpetual pandemic preparedness is exactly in alignment with what they were talking about in this book in 1946. Okay, so then the next paragraph about the physics. We previously mentioned the need for producing a balanced, dynamic, spiraling movement. So spiral, that's the spin, towards some magnetized objective. It is in such concepts as planetary good health that scientific humanism finds these objectives. Such a broad planetary polarity might well serve as the catalyzer which could project into the fluid solution of world culture the magnetic pattern of a global society cohering the parts and dispersing the current patterns of anti-humanistic vectors. So I'm just going to hit on, you have spiraling, you have magnetism, polarity, fluid solutions, magnetic patterns, coherence, and vectors, all in one paragraph. Well, on the other side, you'll see there, it says further economic planning. There's a second arrow, total employment, planned production, planned distribution. And so those are all things that you might start to hear about around, a jobs guarantee, things, cooperatives, cybernetic economies. Those are things I think that are increasingly going to be coming up relating to supply chains and the climate narrative.
I'm curious what they mean by anti-humanistic. What's their definition of anti-humanistic? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, I think this was written in 1946, right? And actually it was literally probably less than the year after we dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And so this is an American professor, the chair of philosophy at the University of Pittsburgh, who earlier in the book sort of says, American democracy is going to be the catalyst for this new matrix of, cybernetic world brain life. Now, we've just we've just destroyed a country in that way. And yet we're judging other people about their, laying out anti-humanistic vectors. I think it's kind of mind-boggling actually to think about it. But the idea that you need to create electrical transitions almost to change the way people's minds work, to erase, if you imagine magnetic storage. Jason, you probably know better than I on the electronic, but the storage in computing systems is magnetized, right? You just wipe it with a magnet, right? Wipe it, get the individualized characteristics of different cultural groups around the world, and we're going to just wipe all of that out as sort of anomalous factors and create sort of one harmonized frequency. And yesterday I did a program with my friend Zakiya about eugenics, and I said, her audience is more, Black nationalist, radical nationalist audience. And I said, once they create this harmonized culture, I'm pretty sure that the global South is not going to be the prevailing culture, right? It's going to be harmonized, and it has clear eugenic overtones to it. And so who's the choosier's chooser, choosing what this planetary society is going to be? I think the power dynamic and the potential for erasure of vast numbers of classes of people, while at the same time having the social media sphere uplift every aspect of identity and representation, but with the goal of knowing that you're going to erase it anyway, is interesting to me. And so, and again, I included a small source link about social network economics. That's Sandy Pentland. And I've been studying Sandy Pentland, looking at his work for quite some time, because he was actually one of the earliest developers of Internet of Things and the idea of wearable technology and tracking social systems through phones and various kinds of tagging systems, very interested in emergent social networking and making those visible to the machine. So I think it's useful. Part of what I'm wanting to do today is to introduce some concepts that people can then spend some time getting more familiar with against the backdrop of this Twitter, spectacle.